I'm Aditi Nair and I'm the Chief People Officer at Practice. This is the third webinar that we have planned in this series, and we are really happy to have all of you here today. Before we start off, a few basic etiquettes for the call. Request you all to please keep yourselves on mute. Also request you to keep your cameras off for now, apart from the panelists, of course, because there is restriction in the gallery view with Teams. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat and we'll definitely take them up. We'd like this to be an interactive session, so make use of the chat as far as possible. So when we were planning the webinar, we were very curious to know, approximately how many CVs did a recruiter typically go through by, sourcing for a position. And that number ranges anywhere between 100 to 400 CVs for a given position. Now, out of these 100 or so CVs, about 30 to 40 make it, through the first cut, and our recruiters probably speak to them. So that's really incredible, right? About how important, a good, well-drafted CV is. So we have a great panel with us today, and we hope that the insights that they share will help you to draft that really impactful CV for yourselves. Today is also a very important day. Today is actually CA day. So all the chartered accountants who've joined the call, all the chartered accountants in our lives, wish you all a very happy CA day. We are really glad to have you all around. So we have an interesting contest that we are running today. So we have 4 lucky winners, 2 that we'll pick by lucky draw, and 2 will be interesting questions posed during the webinar. So let's get started. In terms of questions, be more proactive during the webinar, and we will curate 4 CVs from the participants. So you all can share your email IDs with us, and we will curate your CV for you. Okay, so let me just get started with a brief about what Practice does. So Practice Advisors, popularly it was known as MyCFO earlier. We work with over 900 organizations to deliver measurable ROI through our Office of CFO, Performance Improvement, and Business Transformation Services. We have a team of about 220 team members who are based across India, New York, and Dubai offices. Yeah, so I think this was a really, I'm really happy to share. So this was the first time that Practice participated in the Great Place to Work survey. In Feb 2022, we were certified as a Great Place to Work, and we've also made it to the India's Great Mid-size Workplaces list, and we were ranked 51. So it's a really nice, accomplishment for us in the first year of participation. Before I introduce our host with the most, there's a quick poll that's coming up on your screen right now. So can I ask Murtaza to help us with the poll? So on an average, how much time do you think a recruiter spends on one resume? So you can choose an option and click on submit. So we have about 30% who say 15 seconds and another 24% that say 24 seconds. The actual average, if you see in the industry, is about 7 to 8 seconds per CV. That's the industry average that's there. So just about 7 to 8 seconds to make an impact through your CV. So I'll introduce our host for today. We have with us S. Venkatraman. We all call him S. Venkat. He co-founded Practice Advisors. He's a chartered accountant, cost management accountant, and a risk manager. He started his career with PwC, where he worked for about 8 years. What's interesting to know is that he was appointed as a CFO for Aeon's Indian subsidiary when he was just 28 years old. He actively mentors young professionals both within and outside practice, provides career planning tips and guidance to so many of us who benefited from it. I think one of the very key roles that he's played is giving a lot of direction to our entire hiring strategy at Practice. I'm sure that you'll benefit a lot from Venkat's perspectives on the webinar today. So thank you very much, Venkat. Over to you for the rest of the session.
Okay, thank you so much, Aditi.
Thank you.
For a very warm welcome to all participants. If you're at home, I hope you have got your cup of steaming chai and some hot pakodas to go with today's webinar. And if you're in the traffic, then please accept our heartfelt sympathies. and we'll join you in offering up prayers that you kind of get home as soon as possible. Hopefully, we'll keep you entertained along the way. Yeah, so uh, a few hygiene issues. The topic is really about how to get noticed. Um, it's likely to be most useful to those of you who are young finance professionals. Those of you who are probably above the age of 35, I'm sure you will get some value out of it. But the webinar is primarily targeted at finance professionals, not necessarily CAs, could be MBA finances and others below the age of 35. Yeah. Second is we will be recording this session. We are recording this session, and an edited version of this would be made available within a few days on social media. But in case you would like to make notes, obviously you should feel free to do it. We would like to keep the tone and tenor of this discussion very informal and very participative, right? So what I'd like to do with the permission of the panelists is also to kind of take questions from the participants, because the whole point of this webinar is that it's got to be useful to you as participants, right? So there is no preset agenda from our side. So I would really encourage all of you as participants to kind of type in your questions. I mean, as an added incentive, there is also prizes that have been announced by Aditi for the most interesting questions, 2 prizes for that, and for 2 which are lucky draw, where you kind of share your email IDs. Yeah, so please make full utilization of that facility, make good utilization of your time. I would also like to clarify that all the comments that have been made by the panelists are being made in their personal capacities, and they don't necessarily represent the views of the organizations that they work for. Yeah, so with those comments, I'd like to take the opportunity of introducing Rajesh Srivastav first. Rajesh is the CHRO at Capital Foods. I'm not going to do a traditional introduction because all of you are very smart with LinkedIn. I'm sure you can kind of read up about Rajesh online. What really touched me about Rajesh is he's one of the rare people that I know who has written out his name in Hindi, or rather the Devanagari script, as we call it. So he's unique in my phone book. I think he's probably only one among 2 or 3 people that I know who in my phone book are actually in Hindi, right? And I was talking to him about it, and he was telling me, yeah, my request is whoever is,
5 tips on writing a resume for finance professionals.
yeah, there seems to be some disturbance. Yeah, whoever is speaking, if you can kindly go on mute, please. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so when I questioned him about it, he was saying, look, language is a vehicle of culture, right? And that's the way he kind of stays connected with his roots. Um, Rajesh likes to travel, and he likes to travel to rural places, to so where he can feel connected with nature. So the last 3 places that he has been to are Jakati, Raniket, and Mau. He is originally from Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh, and he loves. He's a great reader, is an avid reader. He's currently reading Noise by Daniel Kahneman. Yeah, so he also loves Hindi poetry, and he's reading Dinkarji's poem called Rashmi Rathi, which is based on Mahabharata. Incidentally, Rajesh, after I heard the name, I went and I had a chance to read a portion of it myself. So thank you for recommending this. Yeah, so very happy to have you on board, Rajesh. Welcome to today's webinar.
Thank you for your kind words. Okay. Looking forward.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Hema Mani, who is Regional Director of HR at Lennox India. Hema wears multiple hats. She's also on the State Council of CII. She's heavily involved with matters that promote women's empowerment and representation at the workplace. Hema is also the coordinator for the South for Isha's Save Soil initiative. I'm sure all of you would have heard about and seen possibly Sadhguru's remarkable journey across half the planet, with the message of trying to save soil. So namaskaram, Hema, in true Isha tradition. Lovely to have you. Hema again is an extremely interesting person. She loves to read as well. She's currently reading Sanjeev Sanyal's Ocean of Churn. She's an avid movie buff. She loves Raj Kapoor movies. She's also a Tom Hanks fan, and she likes both Terminal and Forrest Gump. And she is remarkably in the middle of all this. Obviously, she's also got to kind of manage home. So I don't know how she multitasks, but because she's a woman, God gives woman an extra strand of DNA for multitasking, which is probably explains how she's able to do all this. She's also managed to see Jug Jug Jio, the latest movie. Okay, so we are kind of looking forward to your reviews on that movie and whether we should also be watching it or not, Hema, right? But delighted to have you on today's webinar. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Venkat. I just love the way you're introducing us. These will be lifelong reminders of friends we are going to create today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Nagesh, last but not the least, a dear friend, and I think a partner in crime in some ways, because I think both Native and Practice are kind of in some ways trying to solve the skill demand and supply gap in the market. Enormous respect for what Nagesh and his other co-founders have at Native have built. Very, very successful franchise, extremely professionally run, and particularly strong in the finance domain, right? So for those of you ambitious, hardworking, smart finance professionals who are kind of looking to get on in life and you need a headhunter to help you with, a very strong recommendation that you should possibly kind of get in touch with Nagesh. Nagesh, I hope your inbox is not going to get spammed at the end of this webinar, but obviously we'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey as an entrepreneur at Native. Nagesh is a fitness enthusiast, and when I say fitness, this is not like 30-minute perambulation in the morning. He's into active and intense physical activity. So he's now kind of got very, very serious about cycling, in addition to his original passion of cricket. His favorite sports star, which kind of defines all people of our generation, no surprises, is Sachin Tendulkar. So thank you once again, Nagesh, for joining in. You've been with us on some past sessions, so truly grateful to you for making time to join us once again.
Pleasure is mine, Venkat. Thank you.
Perfect. So with those introductions, what we'll possibly do is to kind of slip into introductory remarks or comments by all the speakers. If we can go to the next slide, Valentino. So what would probably help, and we can start with you first, Rajesh. If you can kind of talk to us about some CV stories, something interesting, something funny, something touching that you kind of came across, when you're reviewing CVs. I don't know if you review CVs anymore. I'm sure you got an army of people to do that. But anything from your personal experience will be very interesting. And also generally any trends, in terms of what's really happening with the resumes that are kind of coming into Capital Foods or otherwise. Like I remember one instance of a CV that came to us at Practice is obviously from a finance professional who had actually presented his resume in the form of a balance sheet. To kind of talk about assets and liabilities, to kind of say that, okay, these are the strengths and weaknesses, for instance. Yeah. So if I can call on you to make your introductory comments, Rajesh, please.
Thank you, Venkat, for this the kind introduction, the manner in which you described. Rashmi Datti is something which is very close. We'll talk about it at some point in time. Thank you for this question. Thank you for this opportunity. Number one, I have been a recruiter in my early days when I started my career. So I've had opportunity to hire, and I was actually part of a founding team of Birla Sun Life Insurance. So I remained there 3.5 years when we had a 50% attrition rate those days, because 3 months experience in insurance those days, some of you will recall, was considered expert. So at 50% turnover, we were growing. So by the time I moved out, we were 4,000. So you can imagine the kind of hiring we would have done, predominantly at frontline level, of course. But so a couple of interesting things. One of the things which I liked, and some of the people, particularly who have some experience, funny things we will talk about it. What one should kind of watch out for. Some people have summarized it right at the top, what they have done. So if see, when like Aditi mentioned, 7, 8, 10 seconds is the average time, etc. When we look at this, what we are very keen is that how the person has done in a nutshell. So what is the academics, and if he or she has worked somewhere, in what chronology and what someone might have been doing earlier. If these are the two critical things, and you get it at the in first 5-10 seconds, it's very quickly helps us to take a decision and move forward and read interestingly. Funny CV, in fact, today itself, this morning, I was reading one CV. I still do that. 1 year experience, gentlemen, 3-page CV, would have written all kinds of competencies in the world that one can think of. Some of it might have been picked up from Googling, so one can make it out. And then towards the end, I see that this is the first job, 17-18 months experience. Now that was something which kind of I would, with due respect, mention that was a waste of time, to be honest. So these are two things which sometimes maybe a CV that I would be very CV in nutshell gives a 1.5 page CV is a good enough CV to my mind. Anything beyond that, then it's repetition. Often there is repetition. So sometimes people mention this is the competency. I know I can do X, Y, Z, etc., and then they mention the employment details and chronology, and then they go deep down into each of the roles, and then you start seeing that there is a repetition. So sometimes that's something which frankly puts me off, at least. These are some of the things. Some people mention, put their full length photograph, and on one side they will. So there are lots of things that I will rather we'll pick it during this discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Rajesh. Sometimes you're not sure whether you're reading a CV or probably reading a book, right? Because there are so many pages to it. Hima, can I request you to please share some of your CV stories and some comments?
I think, very similar to what Rajesh is echoing is what I would share here, Venkat. But for those of you who are listening to us, I think predominantly, whenever I see a resume, and Aditi is absolutely right, the lifespan of a resume in my attention is not beyond 7 seconds. And if it's interesting, it pulls me on to about 15 seconds. And it was even more interesting, it pulls me on to 20 seconds, right? So 20-25 seconds. But you really are talking about well within under a minute, because that's the amount of resumes recruiters get, and some of us still, get resumes. And one of the funny, what is happening between now and years before is when there was a time when we were all writing something called curriculum vitae or personal profile or resume. There was a lot of originality in what we brought into the content creation. It's a content creation you're really doing. It's a personal branding document that you're creating essentially. So I'll draw from my personal experience. I think I created my first curriculum vitae or CV, as we call them today, way back in 1995. And I recollect my dad giving me a piece of paper and asking me to write by hand, what I thought of myself and what I really wanted to project to the world, or how did I want to brand myself to the world. And it took me half a day. It took me more than half a day. And dad, being dad, was so unhappy with the quality of work I produced that he again gave me another full scape sheet saying, redo it all over again. So that is what I'm trying to impress upon people who are listening to us is a CV is not a sheet of paper that allows you to get a job. It really is a positioning of your personal brand that you put, in front of people. So now coming to very specifically what Venkat was asking, what are some of the CV stories I've seen? Like what Rajesh, shared, I have seen CVs which go into bulk number of pages, which is also not sustainable, because remember, these resumes are not going to be at the office that you send it out. They quickly get thrashed out. So one is that bulk, and nobody has the time to read through that. The first page is an impression creator, just like what moms would tell children, when they go to write their final exams. The first page is the impression creator. Make sure the margins are proper, make sure the handwriting is neat, make sure there are no spelling errors on the first sheet. That's exactly the psychology behind CVs also. It's the first impression that you create in the first few lines, the choice of words that you use, the sentences that you use that create that first impression. And then as as the trailer works beautifully, then you start going into the main movie and you start flipping into the rest of the sheets. So that's really the psychology behind any recruiter who sees a CV. The one blunder that I see many youngsters do today is procrastinate and be very lazy about creating a CV, not spending adequate time. What I typically see, students do is get into apps like Resume Builder or those different apps that are created to make CVs look very designer friendly. The quality of the design certainly has gone up significantly, but the quality of content within those CVs have diminished drastically. And I'll give you an example. Very recently, I met this very smart girl who, if I had not spoken to her, I would have diminished at the CV level. They got me to meet with her and talk to her, and she had really used one of these applications. I think maybe a resume builder or I don't know, resume creator or one such application, and she put all the content into this application, and the net result was it looked really nice from a design standpoint, just like what you're seeing on the screen here, but all the words were interconnected. There was no space between the words. It was all a jumble of alphabets throughout the whole resume. And the shocking fact was she had not realized it until I saw that paper and I said, why is your CV looking like this? Is this the new language that you're trying to project? And that is when she took her copy and saw that there was a blunder in the whole way she had tried to put together her CV using some application. So this is just a story, an anecdotal, but I leave behind a message that a CV is really the first impression that you're building in front of an organization. A CV is the first document that goes among almost thousands of similar documents that reach recruiters. And the third piece is recruiters don't have time. They are working on multiple positions, they are, beating deadlines. So how much of time you want to give that is something that we should discuss as this discussion takes forward. So those are my few points, Venkat.
Thanks, Emma. I think it, this is not in jest, but I think on a very serious note, dads are actually probably the best and maybe the first quality control managers that we all meet in our lives, right? I mean, you can't get anybody better because they've got your best interest at heart, and they will not lie to you, and they will not be happy till the time you get it perfectly right. I mean, they don't care. I mean, if I'm sure you would have written out 10 fullscapes.
I did.
Yeah, so that's how we all learn, right? I mean, you kind of get it right. You have to get it right with dads. Yeah. So thank you for that personal anecdote. Very helpful. Nagesh, before you share, your CV stories and introductory comments, I would be very curious to know how many CVs does Native receive on a daily basis on an average?
Venkat, we actually don't even have the count because we are 120 of us. And each one of us would be receiving at least 3 to 5 a day. So I mean, it's a big count. So maybe out of 120, even say 90 of us are active in terms of consulting. So easily 3 to 500 profiles in a day is what we would be going through.
Got it.
That's a large count.
Sure.
Yeah.
Would you like to share any CV stories?
Yeah. So I'll not take too much time because I think Hema and Rajesh have beautifully put it. CV is your it's your first document, first impression. It's your first filter, and it's about your own personal brand. So I think it's very important that you spend a lot of time on it because that is your first filter. Basis your CV, you're going to go to the next level and get a chance to showcase. So it is very important. Yes, I think in today's world where we are so inundated with data, we are what, 7.2 billion people, 1.2 billion in India, 50 lakh working population. there are tons of CVs that one go through. So you need to put in a lot of effort to make it stand out, but don't overdo it. Okay, you need to kind of balance it well. You need to keep it short. As I said, we are inundated with so much of data. None of us have the patience to go through 3 to 5 pages. If you can't put what you have done in the first 1.5 page, I think you need to go back and figure out how you need to communicate. So CVs need to be precise. It's a tool to kind of showcase your competencies, so hard skills, soft skills. It's a tool to actually showcase your achievements, your diversity, what you can do, what you want to do. So, and in a very nutshell. Lastly, don't put everything on the CV. You also need to have some element of curiosity, so that the person comes back and want to hear more from you. I think that is something that you need to always think through and keep changing. Funny moments. So I had one candidate, and we were talking to him, and I asked him to send across his profile for a mandate we are working. So he told me, कौन सा भेजूं? Corporate finance वाला CV भेजूं या financial control वाला भेजूं या tax audit? मैं बोला एक काम करो, तीनों भेजो. I will figure it out. And then obviously we didn't process it. You need to be consistent. You need to have integrity. You need to be consistent, and there has to be just one CV. You can't have different CVs for like different formats. That's not
very true. Very, very true.
That's it for myself.
Thank you so much, Nagesh. So maybe we'll take some questions, because we're already seeing some questions coming through from the audience, and I would strongly encourage guys, please make full use of the opportunity. You've got 3 stellar professionals in front of you. If you were to kind of try and get an appointment with them in the normal course of things, it would be very tough. So when we have got them with us, I think it's very important for you to present your questions and get the answers. So one question from Pradeep is how to present a career break due to burnout and health issue. You want to take that, Nagesh?
Yeah, I think be honest. So one more thing which I wanted to quickly put up is mention dates in your profile. Many people who don't put up dates create a doubt on first hand. The minute I don't see a date, I know there is something fishy inside. There is something which is not right, and then you probe in more. Yeah, if there is a break, it's fine. I took a break to take care of my mother, I something personal, whatever. Be honest, have that integrity, and speak about it confidently. Nowadays, people are more than open to kind of understand, and they are absolutely okay. But if you're not honest, there is where the problem is. So it doesn't matter, highlight it, and you can absolutely explain, no problem.
I agree. So there are 3 elements that one looks at when one looks at a profile. One is integrity, and that comes out through the way you put out data in your profile. So if you have had any gaps, and usually women out there will have some gaps, let's accept it. There will be a maternity break, there will be an elderly care break, there will be a sabbatical break, there will be a break for higher studies. All this happens. It's a part of our life, right? So it's okay to be very honest about it, and believe us when we say that HR leaders or recruiters look at such CVs with a greater amount of appreciation and respect for that individual, because you've actually come out and shared. There have also been cases where many people do not put out the breaks that they would have had because they have been downsized or for some reason lost their jobs. It happens. There are a lot of organizations going through a lot of financial turmoils, and because of a very strategic reason, there could be a downsizing that happens. It's all right to say that I'm terribly sorry that you have been part of that, and and explain what really happened. There'll be a much deeper appreciation of it rather than hiding it, and then during the interview somebody figuring it out and it coming out through a background check, which is even more terrible.
And it has to come out. There is no way out. So you rather go up front.
Got it. So basically, honesty is. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Rajesh.
See, my personal experience is that things have changed dramatically over last decade, and this is no more a taboo in India. The right sizing, the reduction in jobs, etc., keeps happening. It's a regular phenomena. The taboo or a stigma associated with job loss or whatever is completely gone. Most of the employers that I know of are pretty okay. But what Nagesh or Emma is mentioning, let's be honest with dates. I think that is very critical element. And right from your education, to my mind, when you passed your high school, which year, 10th, 12th, graduation, college, all that detail allows the recruiter to take a clear view. There is no point you kind of fudge things up, go there, meet, waste your time as well as someone else's time, and then they figure it out. Because if at all I shortlist a CV without seeing that these dates, etc., or sometimes they come, the few questions that I will ask is around this. That okay, let me see that how you begin. This year you passed, this year you passed, this year, okay, fine. And then figuring out that what happened between is not that great sign. Instead, come and boldly share that XYZ reason, whatever may be the reason, job loss, break, hobby, whatever it is. I think I would, from a hiring side, I will really appreciate that. So I don't think that there is any problem. Be candid.
Sorry. So I think thank you for that, Rajesh. So be upfront and provide clarity on the dates. I think is a very clear message kind of coming across from all the three panelists. If Valentino, you could just move on to the next slide, and Rajesh, if I can stay with you, and maybe just put up the actual CV, Valentino. Yeah. So Rajesh, if a CV like this kind of comes to you, right? What would be your top, let's say, 1 or 2 points of feedback? I mean, the good part about this session is it's about resume. Resume is highly visual, right? So we thought we'll actually put up some samples there, right? So that the participants are able to understand almost like what are the do's and don'ts. So what would be your reaction to this CV, Rajesh?
See, number one, optically well designed, appears attractive. So I may prefer, but few things that I would be very keen on the first page is the education qualification in a chronological order, and the companies, and then rest of the things, because the rest of the academic record is on the second. If I'm looking at a chartered accountant, the first thing that I will look at, that is the gentleman actually has the right qualification. So if I have to improve this, I will bring this thing on the first side, and then rest of the things can follow.
Okay.
Another thing I noticed is often it is very critical if this is complete CV.
I think there's one more page, right? Valentino, can you just go to
This is the complete CV.
complete
Yeah,
CV?
that's
Okay,
page 1 and page 2. That's how it is. It's page
Yes.
1 and page 2.
So I don't see, let's say for example, date of birth. While that may not be a criteria, but it helps often.
Right.
So that part is missing. So I will quickly look at what is the age of the person, what qualification, where is he working, how many years he has been working. These are the 4 or 5 elements before I proceed further. And if that doesn't fit into my requirement, then possibly sometimes we lose a great candidate because the CV, as everybody is mentioning, people, it is your face.
Right. Got it. So basically what our recruitment team did is also to kind of start putting some comments, right? Which is why you see something in red over there. You want to show all the comments, Valentino? Yeah. So yeah, whether the keywords being highlighted, they should be relevant to the position that you're applying for. Anything else, Valentino, on this? Okay, now whether there's a point or whether there's too much text, right? Is that something that you would agree with, Nagesh? Is it too much?
This profile should have come in 1 page. He's an 8-year experience guy. Okay.
Yes.
If you look at it. So in 8 years experience, if you're going to give me a 2-page full CV and writing so much of experience, I think the person has overdone it. Needs to be concise and precise. I think that's where we are heading as a world, and it's too much of data.
Another
In fact,
thing
for example, let me just add to this.
Yeah.
Now I'm just going through. So there is a MIS and accounting. If that is what the whole thing, I think if you mention that you are doing whoever MIS, and that itself is MIS could be analysis of that or preparing for that or whatever. I think that will give a good sense that what it is. And then Mehma mentioned that Nagesh mentioned allow some bit of your recruiter to find out from me. That creates a curiosity. Okay, what do you do in MIS? How do you do MI? Those are the kind of questions you are inviting. Otherwise, if you write down the full thing, there is no point interviewing you.
Another glaring miss I see in this profile is 8 years experience. Has he worked in the same company? What are the different organizations he's worked in?
Yes, that is.
That for me is a big glaring miss. And I agree with Rajesh. Ideally the academic record should have come ahead in the first page. And this can easily be concised into a one pager. I mean, one can keep all these details below that MIS, below that budgeting, internal process, for something the recruiter to establish through a discussion. Right, because a resume is not a selection tool. It's only an entry tool. I think that needs to be understood by everybody, that it's only an entry tool. It's not a selection tool. There will be a process of a test or an interview or an assessment, whatever the case is.
Got it. So it's a very important point, Emma. Somewhere what you're saying is that what you're seeking to achieve through the resume itself is very important to be fundamentally clear about, right? I mean, you don't need to aspire to get selected through the CV alone. You're saying you're only aspiring to get a call for the interview, right?
Absolutely.
So let's restrict ourselves only to that first step rather than trying to overdo it. Yeah.
In fact, just to add, and Nagesh can help more, especially youngsters who are on this call, for them, if they are using this for an online platform for search of job, some of the basic elements that are required for those platforms are not there. So date of birth, organization you are working, educational qualification, location, where you are based. These are some of the criteria at those middle and junior level. This filtering is done.
Yeah.
So this CV may not even be filtered for the want of a missing information.
Right. Got it. Valentina, you want to go ahead?
Venkat,
Sorry,
that
go ahead,
brings
Emma.
to a very important point, which I'm sure Nagesh would be doing a lot more. A lot of CV selection these days are done on automated systems. Organizations are taking these CVs either from an application like a Naukri or a LinkedIn or a Monster, and perhaps native, and they're also feeding it into their own in-company ATS system, which is also automated. So basically, when we are down selecting resumes, it is with a bunch of keywords. If I'm allowed a couple of minutes time, Venkat, I'd just like
Sure.
to explain that.
Sure.
So let's look at it from a recruiter standpoint. We need to understand it from a recruiter standpoint. A recruiter is given a job description. Now, the job description itself is a large document which captures skills, responsibilities, KRAs, etc. But for a recruiter to go and do a search, he or she will need something called as a keywords. So, acha, ye job ke liye, what are the key skills required, or what are the key things that you're looking for? Then the recruiter puts those key skills onto their application tracking system or on Naukri or places like that, and they derive a bunch of CVs. So really, they are playing based on keywords that are used for a particular job. So now you come back to creating a resume. When you're applying for a job, let's say in this case, I think you're applying for a accounts, revenue and expense. Is that what? Is it an AR job? Looks like it's an AR job that the person is applying. I don't know. Maybe it's a SAP job. I don't know. So make sure your resume is containing those key skills in a repetitive manner. Because any automated application today is picking up on the number of times the key skills is getting repeated. That's how it keeps popping up, just like any other automation or digital thing that is happening. So make sure that key skill is represented.
I think it's a very valuable input. Thank you for that, Hema, because I think some of the participants also get to understand how the process works at the recruiter's end, right? And if that is getting automated, then understanding how the technology is working becomes super critical for all of us. Fair enough. Valentina, you want to go ahead and yeah. Any quick comments on this one? I know we spent some time on the previous one, but any quick comments, maybe one each from each one of you.
At a high level,
again,
I would
there is-
skip the CV.
These are two CVs, right? Left and right. We've just put excerpts of some of the sections.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the profile summary again, 9 years experience, that should be the whole CV. But the profile is so again not precise enough.
And is this very important to kind of show CA PE1, PE2, final,
No,
etc.?
no,
Is
not
this
at all.
No. What's your final
Again, you
destination?
got to, and again the other personal details could be these personal details could be at the last or the end of the profile. You need to put personal details up front. See, what's most important in the profile is your first half of the page. You that first half you need to treat it like gold. Every word needs to have its value, and because it's the first half, what you see is where you then dive deeper. If the first half is not
Got it.
interesting, you have wasted space and time, you will not go below.
Got it. So you're almost saying, Nagesh, that while Aditi presented a statistic of 11 seconds per CV, the first 5 seconds, if your first half is interesting, the chances are you probably will end up getting 30 seconds on your CV.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The first half has a
Exactly.
lot of stuff which I have on my mind and I'm matching. If the first
Yeah.
half is matched, is where I go down.
Yeah.
If that is not matched or I don't have any curiosity, I skip it. I say, "Ispe baad mein aata hu, let me just look at something else."
Yeah, it's almost like a trailer of the movie, right? I mean, you see the
Correct.
trailer and then you decide whether I want to see the full
Absolutely.
movie or not, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Which is why my first instant reaction when this was presented is I wouldn't even take both these series. This wouldn't even appear for me in my, choice of selection.
Just keep going
So I
ahead.
think,
Sorry, go
when
ahead. Sorry.
yeah, sorry. I again come back to this whole point that your CV, especially if you are looking out for your first job or a first break, that is the representation of your brand. Now, I'll just point out to this. There's a career objective, which is a 3-liner thing there, which is grammatically even incorrect. Yeah, look at it. It says seeking challenging career. It's that's how my mind is reading through that entire 3 lines that is put there. If you can just spend a few moments in really articulating who you are and bring out that originality into those 3 lines and even bring it to 1 line, it will create an impression of sorts for the person to take that additional few seconds to go through the rest of the CV. It can be as simple as I am an avid trekker. So what? I'm doing a chartered accountancy, but I'm an avid trekker. And if you can bring out something that's very unique to you in that very first line,
Yes.
that it's like a movie trailer. It's the Brahmastra trailer that you're putting there, which is the next movie I want to watch. And then you look to the rest of the
Yeah.
resume.
Also, just one more observation, so we can move. I know we're taking time, but look at the CA thing. So CA PE1 is 05, PE2 is 07, and CA final is 11. Why do you need to show that you have taken 7 years? Just put CA final. So you just got to pick and choose. Yeah, we can move ahead.
I think we lost Venkat.
Yeah,
Just
we
to
can-
Nakesh's point that this is important, very important. Sometimes this kind of a detailing dissells you.
Yeah.
You say you're CA, you're chartered accountant, year XYZ, and let someone else to find out if they are looking at somebody who is ranker and all that kind of thing, they will do that. But predominantly, I don't see too much difference. 4 year or 5 years CA, etc. If you have done completed CA and kind of you have the requisite academic qualification. So sometimes Nagesh mentioned it correctly. It dissells also. So while being factual, but use a judgment that what you will present. So don't go and open it everything.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think conversely, see, we also have a question on this point, right? Where Kinjal is asking, is it important to write cleared in first attempt for CA professionals? I mean, if you have cleared, then I would imagine it's probably a good idea to
If
highlight
you're
that.
cleared, then showcase it with pride. If you have
Yeah.
not, just say completed CA. That's it.
Right. Okay.
Oh, by the
Perfect.
way, I have a cousin who attempted CA some 7 times. And when she put out a resume, she just said cleared CA. That's it. And she got her job. So,
Sometimes some organizations do specifically ask for people of first attempt. Then that's a very different. Sometimes
But
they do
that's
first second.
for the recruiter to go and find out.
But that's a rare. I don't see this happening too often, except that placement at an entry level. But I agree with that there is no point disselling yourself. If you have done cleared, ranked, etc., obviously it's a selling point. Put it with pride.
the one certain no is the way that profile summary is written there. If you look at it, I'm sure all of us were seeing that screen. It's very discouraging to even read that. So That is the absolute no-no, to put out a profile summary the way it has been put out.
And the point here is it is too long, there is too much text, simply too many
Yeah.
bullets. So it just looks to the recruiter visually that, oh God, I got to take so much effort to look at the CV, so I would rather not read it at all.
Correct. And it's
Okay.
competing with some other CV which is much more
Easier to read.
concise. Yeah, much more
Got
easier.
it. Valentin, you want to go ahead? Yeah. So words like computer proficiency, is it even something that needs to be even said? Yeah. Word with a spouse name.
Unless you
is it even-
acquired skill on Click dashboard or Python scripting, bring it out.
Exactly.
But not MS Excel, PowerPoint. These are all
That's
This is
assumed to be
basically
there.
now given.
assumed that you have it.
It is assumed you are.
Yeah. Go ahead, Valentino.
I want to talk a little about this married versus thing.
Sure.
I mean, I'm entering into a zone which probably there are a lot of progressive organizations out there which don't want to even know that. So you can just avoid some of those intimate personal details because slowly we are moving into a country which is becoming agnostic of your personal statuses. So the new genre of resumes, you may not want to showcase it, but if it's there, it's all right. If you want to disclose it, nothing wrong. But I'm also telling you there are organizations which are quite progressive and we don't want to know, or that's not the criteria of selection.
Got it. But I would imagine that the spouse name is something that definitely you don't want to. Fair enough. Go ahead, Valentino. Okay, just keep going ahead. Let's show the CVs and we'll let the panel decide whether these are good CVs or not, rather than us deciding it. Yeah. You want to put up the other one as well? There were two of them, right? On this. Yeah, let's just show both the CVs and then we'll request the panel to review them. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it goes to the next slide. Okay, but let's just go back. Sorry, Valentino. I thought we had two on the same one. Yeah. Any comments on this one from the panel?
No, decent. I think the precise one pager. He has his contact details up. I don't know. The good part is what I like the most about this is he has his LinkedIn profile. Very, very important. Venkata. Spend some time there because today LinkedIn is your profile. Many a times nowadays we just share the LinkedIn and that talks about the individual. It's very important to now put up your LinkedIn profile on the. It's more or less mandatory if you ask me. And you need to manage your LinkedIn profile effectively. It talks about who you are, your connections, your proactive, and you can showcase a lot about you as an individual through LinkedIn. So if you are able to, so that should be something which is mandatory. Otherwise, I think one pager, brilliant, good snap. I get to know how the person looks like. So very impressive.
Yes, one thing is that this will certainly attract my attention. However, once again misses some of the stuff around education, qualification, those kind of stuff are not there right away.
So the one question for you, Rajesh, before you go on, if I can just understand, why would you spend more time on the CV? When you said caught your attention, what caught it? Is it the photograph? Is it the color scheme?
See the color scheme, presentability, one page. One page. Color scheme, one page. And he starts with some selling ideas, awards, and accolades. So I will go through it. But if I am to figure out, sorry, Nagesh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Rajesh. I interjected. But look at the awards and accolades that he has put up. He is not talking about skills. He is talking about result. I slashed this. I grew this. I raised this. Very precise, result-oriented communication. मैंने ये किया. This is what goes in is automatically assumed.
Yeah.
This is what you need to put up. Awards and recognition in a classic finance profile. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that goes positive in this CV for me. The color scheme for one, just as somebody who would be given out a printed CV, or if the CV came on an email to me. And I also really agree with Nagesh. What caught my attention was awards and accolades. Not many people put that out there. You really have to sift it out during the discussion. And the fact that he's put out there just amplifies his confidence levels and the fact that he's such a result oriented guy. So I really like that as well. I'm still going back to a recruiter bench, right, Venkat, when people are receiving these CVs, right? Um, for me, I think I'm just repeating myself. I'm hoping the right keywords are chosen for this JD, that it comes out to the recruiter, because that's the first step, that entry point, right? I'm assuming that is there. And once that is there, it enters into my inbox. This would be a CV I would pick up for a discussion. And I like the portfolio also. It's a very confident portfolio. A lot of people these days I see putting FB pictures there, informal photograph pics there. It's really nice, if you are applying to an organization, take some time to do a little effort to put on a nice portfolio shots out for yourself and use that consistently on your LinkedIn, consistently on your resume. It really adds to the professional aura you're trying to build.
Yeah.
See, it's a 15 years experienced person, so that is very different here as well. But some of the basic details is still, if had they been there, would have helped. I would be keen to know that what is his educational qualification. He might have mentioned, and if you look at his skills, he has rated himself 10 on 5 of those skills. So sometimes the award and accolades and these, I may sit down with a discussion, but I might get a little biased. But that's not the right thing for the people below 35. I'm sure that he will be 35 plus.
So is this a good way to do this? I mean, the way he has put these, almost like a kind of a meter, if you like, visually on those yellow dots.
It's just
As
upfront
long
there.
as you can speak out for it. As long as you can speak for it.
And again, clarity है कि यार I am good at 1, 2, 3 product development, product strategy, and largely, so he's largely a product guy.
Correct.
That comes out very evidently. He's not put up 10 things, so it's perfectly fine.
Got it. Now the question is, sometimes and usually finance guys tend to be a little bit more conservative, right? I mean, a lot of people don't want to say that I'm very good at 5 things because it looks like I'm bragging, but you don't see that to be an issue.
That's exactly the point. This is the only point where you can brag. Once you're coming into the interview, you can't brag. You have to just state facts. So this is the entry point. It may seem braggy, but it's really what the individual believes he or she is, right?
Understood. Got it. So one question here from Mitesh is, while the infographic CV looks good to the human eye, how does the ATS pick up, the good-looking nature of the CV? ATS will still go by the keywords,
ATS
right? So
does not pick up design. ATS
so
does
are
not
these
pick up
two
design.
are these two objectives at conflict, or they can kind of sit well with each other?
No, that's
Is
fine.
it well, Venkat, for me, because as I think I explained this, it's important first to look at the content of the CV. Make sure your content has the right key skills, keywords for the jobs that you're applying. For example, you're applying for a, let's say an SAP job, making sure that your CV is well represented of SAP and the work that you've done in SAP, and repeating that word SAP a couple of times around your CV. That's very important for the ATS to pick it up. But once it comes in, from the thousands, when it reduces to 50, 60 resumes that a recruiter gets, then the differentiating factor is the look, the infographic that you've created there. So both those elements are very important. I hope that clarified.
Fair enough. So I think basically, Mitesh, these are not two conflicting objectives, right? I mean, you can make a CV that is pleasing to the eye and yet have the keywords there that will make sure that the ATS will pick you up. Yeah. You want to go to the next one, Valentino?
It's a nice question there, Venkat. I don't know if you want to take that. Someone has got a promotion. Someone has got a promotion.
Someone has got a promotion year on year in a 3 to 4 year stint with their existing organization. Should that be put under awards and accolades?
No, I think. Yeah, Hima, sorry.
Go ahead. So, promotion is the result of performance, right? But it is not necessarily an award or an accolade. Award and accolade is a recognition you get for a good piece of work. So where would I show promotion? I would show that under, my work experience, that, let's say I worked in this company and I started off from this role and I moved to that role. So that's where you indicate that how you got promoted, or you show your growth chart. I've seen resumes where, if people have worked in one single organization, they show a little graph that this is how they began and this is how they grew, on the sidelines of the resume, which is a very nice one too. But I would not put it under awards and accolades. That is a recognition. Whereas performance is something that you get based on your performance, or years of experience that you are having, in that role.
Got it. Fair enough. Rajesh, on this CV, any comments from your side? How would you rate this CV?
Good. I mean, this captures most of the element. Nice photograph. He has put all his social media link and everything. The only thing possibly is, unlike the previous one, see that he has some 10, 12 things where he has rated himself on whatever. I can't use that on this under skill. From public speaking to, I really don't know whether it is really important or not. And so, frankly, if there are 4 or 5 things that one wants to talk about, that becomes a selling point to me. Writing 10, 12 skill sets is little overdoing to my mind. Rest, I think he has done well on this CV. I would pick this. So.
Right. Any additional comments, Nagesh, Hema?
No, I think this will get shortlisted. Intriguing, curious. He could have used the space better, but I think it will get shortlisted. Formatting could have been better, but I think it's fine. Like, it is not justified. If you look at the thing, it's just slightly messy, lag raha mujhe, but I think it's better.
Yeah, I like the CV. I would at least meet the guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Just stay on this. If one has to, for the audience or the participants, if I have to make some change, then possibly I will bring the education and honors and awards on the first page.
Yeah.
Got it. Fair enough. Valentino, you want to go ahead to the next one? We'll probably summarize some of these thoughts. Yeah, so some commandments of a good CV. Let's have a logical flow. Let's highlight a few things, but the relevant things that will be useful for the recruiter catch their eyes. Use the right theme. Make sure it's relevant. One of the things that Aditi was mentioning is that it's quite incredible. I mean, we get between 100 to 400 for every application, and we reject 70% of it because it's not even relevant. So why would you even apply, right? So let's make sure that there is relevance. Decisions has got to be conscious, what to keep, what to leave. In fact, the decision on what to leave is often more important than what to keep, because the temptation is to kind of try and fit everybody else in, everything in. I think Hema made the point about it doesn't have to be about you as a professional alone. It's also about who you are as a human being, right? So the resume gives you a great opportunity to kind of do that, right? So make use of that opportunity. Be original, chuck the cliches, just be who you are. I think people, the recruiters are also human beings like us, and they see hundreds of CVs, so they can see through cliches. Yeah? Why you, right? What's in it for the recruiter? Extremely important to kind of gain their attention. Brevity. I think there was almost near unanimity that a one-page CV is what is really the right size for a CV. If you're probably somebody with 15-20 years experience, maybe there is a need for a second page, right? Make it look good. It's got to be pleasing to the eye. Don't clutter it up too much. Make good use of the real estate is the other sessions that came up from the panel. And most important, proofread. I think anybody who sends through a CV which is grammatically incorrect, has got spelling mistakes, I think straight away the value of the CV is straight away eroded by about 80%. So unless the recruiter is desperate, there's very poor chance of your kind of getting through. Yeah. Let's go ahead. Sorry, you wanted to say something, Nagesh?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
A couple of things. One, just on the previous one. And some of us end up getting lured into writing some very, very exotic words. Or my my recommendation is be original and don't make mistakes like grammar, spelling, etc. But don't go and overdo pick some fancy words to represent yourself. If you can talk in simple language, simple word, I think that is way better than figuring out some. I remember somebody, I draw it professional. I had to go and search for the meaning of the word because I didn't know the meaning of the word. No,
Right.
just recollect.
Those kind of words, I think will be are wasted unless you are applying to be Shashi Tharoor's assistant, Rajesh.
Yeah, the might have prepared for that, landed up in a wrong place. But be simple. I think see, particularly lots of finance professionals, with due respect, they are not usually in India. Unfortunately, the chartered accountants are not trained the way lots of management graduates are trained on writing and because that's their coursework, etc. It's not. So often, very bright, very bright people find it difficult to represent themselves because that is how the friend circle, etc. This is where they pick up. My humble request is write a simple English, but in a logical, consistent, factual manner. I think simplicity is something something that will sell it way better than writing at right professional or something like that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think the point well made, Rajesh. Yeah, so the next section is about video CVs. This is about tools, right? So I think some of you might be interested, and I think the point was made that balance between the right content and the right presentation. So obviously with the advent of technology, I mean, the best you could do 15 years back, 20 years back when I started writing my CVs was you could use one or two templates that used to be there in MS Word. I mean, nothing beyond that, right? Obviously, there is now a ton of tools available. So you got some names up there. Use of Grammarly, I'm a great fan. I mean, there is no excuse for anybody not to use Grammarly. I mean, it helps you not only from a grammar standpoint, which is obvious just given the name of the tool, but it also helps you in editing, right? So if you can communicate something in say 300 words, which is today 500 words, I generally find that 20 to 25% reduction in the number of words is a given. No matter who it is when you go to a tool like Grammarly, right? So find out how to kind of keep it concise and make it more readable without repetitions. I think there's another point that Rajesh made a little bit earlier, right? So we thought we'll share some of these tools for you to use. Yeah. Right. So the next section is on video video resumes, right? So we are hearing a lot about this. So the thought was to say, okay, we thought we'll share a sample. It's about a minute and a half, I think, the video. So maybe we'll play it and then I'll invite some comments from the panelists. Probably unmute, is it, Valentino? We're not able to hear.
While sharing,
you just need to reshare with.
Hi, my name is Lee Min. I have always been interested in business in general since I was a girl, watching my parents run their own business. At first, I didn't have a path, but as I took more core of the business classes, I came to realize that accounting is the essentials in all business functions. This is why I choose accounting and finance course for my degrees at London Southbank University. One of the most satisfying aspects about studying accounting and finance is that I have gained the knowledge and experience in solving the financial challenges within a business. And I have an opportunity to make a strategic recommendation for that particular company based on their financial performance. After graduate accounting and finance course at London Southbank University, I would like to do my ACA's professional qualifications. I'm dynamic. I'll certainly be able to adapt to the situations and continue to be effective even when there are changes. As I decided to come to UK for my studying when I was 17 years old, this is my drive to success has got me up to this point in my life, and I have learned so many things about business practice. I'm dynamic. I'm certainly able to adapt to the situations and continue to be effective even when there are changes. These would make me become a valuable asset for your company.
Right. So if I can start with So Rajesh, if I can start with you, did you actually come across this a lot? I mean, are people kind of starting to send in video resumes, etc.? And is this like the
No way. Not. I haven't seen video CVs too often. Very rarely. Even in this, while so on this, I will comment that it's still kind of it doesn't frankly give me the complete information that I would seek to shortlist somebody for a longer discussion. Frankly.
Got it. Nagesh? No, you're on mute, Nagesh.
So I think video CVs are yet not very common in India. And also wherever they are more common when it comes to mass hiring as a strategy. So it is yet not common with mid-senior level hiring at this point in time. Having said that, second point, see the CV that you saw was very doctored and it was a proper screening. But if you go to video CVs, you end up having a lot of disturbances, the video quality, etc. I think they still not reached there. So it will take some time. Having said that, there's a lot of banks, a lot of these offshore setups coming up with various tools where you have an interactive robos and you give that 2-minute talk. So through which you kind of have you will start shortlisting, and this is the future. But I believe this is more at the initial 3 to 5 years, 3 to 8 years kind of levels of hiring, not beyond that.
Got it. So the point you're making, Nagesh, is that this is more recruiter initiated on a tool that they have that is possibly kind of catching on. It's not so much about candidates recording themselves and proactively sending it out.
No, not at all.
Okay. But in a sense, Nagesh, if I can ask you this, I mean, doing dry runs, right, in front of a camera to kind of make sure that your pitch, I mean, how do people look? It's very difficult, right? I mean, unless you see yourself in action, how do you look when you're answering a question? What's your body language and stuff like that? Is it actually useful for candidates to rehearse before they land up at an interview? Forget about doing a video resume, but is it useful to rehearse?
Very useful. I think. See, you need to you have to again showcase your best, right? Create a brand. It will not come without putting in effort. So I think if it is casually going, the recruiter or the person on the other side, and Rajesh and Hema would have seen a lot, you can clearly distinguish a person who is prepared and not prepared for an interview. Clearly.
You can also make out candidates who are interested really in your job and are just coming after holding 3-4 offers in their hand.
Simple. There are few guys who don't even visit our website when they come across.
Correct.
They don't even know what the company is about. They just come and sit. Clearly, he's not interested.
Right. Got it.
So on preparation, two things. There are two important elements. One, where whomsoever one is going to meet. Number one, something about the company one must know. The company is what they are into, product, service, brand, whatever that information that is available. And now there is enough information to quite often now with LinkedIn and everything, you will know that whom you are going to meet. Sometimes it does help when you know the person and you kind of browse through that. And then third thing, I know myself best. Therefore, I know that what few things are very important that I will have to talk about. Sometimes, so preparing that, okay, what you have done, what are your achievements, some of the basic questions one can anticipate and be ready for that. These are the three things, like Hema mentioned, gives me at least a cue that the person is, interested in the job. Or sometimes, as Nagesh said, the CV bheja, kisi ne call kiya, he just landed onto this. Fourth thing is presentability, which I'm sure that when talking about it, when you walk into face-to-face or online interview, make sure that you are presentable. I'm not saying that you need to be attired in a specific manner, but yeah, decently groomed is important.
I agree so much. Yeah. So I just want to talk a little about this video CVs. While they're very interesting, Venkat is, these kind of video CVs take a lot of time, effort, and resources to create. And organizations, and then you look back, it's only 5 seconds or 7 seconds of filtering that is it's consuming. So where do these CVs still get used? If you are in the design world, if you are in a space where you are, applying for a PR job, or you're applying for a job which is involving a lot of creative, sciences. That is where possibly you'll see this. I've seen some interesting LinkedIn accounts where they put those little badges saying I am open for jobs. There's that little badge that comes on their profile pic.
Yeah.
I've seen them embed these videos there where they're talking about themselves. It's interesting. When I flip through my LinkedIn, it gives me an attention. It interests me. But if I'm entering through LinkedIn Recruiter, will I sift that resume? It still depends on the LinkedIn profile. What am I putting on the LinkedIn profile? How authentic do I feel the profile is before I filter it out and start taking a look at it? So my advice for youngsters who are starting their first job is don't spend money on, because these things need to be professionally shot. It can't be done sitting at a home. It has to be looking professional. So I wouldn't waste time on this. Just spend that time on creating an original resume, not a copy pasted one. Don't look at your friend's resume and just update, the columns that you need to. Don't do that. Start afresh and create a very original document for yourself. Rather spend that effort there.
Thanks, Emma. I think you touched upon LinkedIn, and in fact, that is the next section and actually the last section. So, in the interest of time, I'll probably fast forward into that. So if you can give us a little bit of an idea, right, as to how does LinkedIn come in handy to the recruiter? I mean, would you kind of typically do it for all shortlisted resumes? And what do you look for in a LinkedIn page? Valentin, maybe you can just flip to the next slide, right? Any thoughts on what a LinkedIn page should be looking like? Do you look for consistency between the resume and the LinkedIn page, for instance? Is that really important at all?
At the time of final selection, yes.
Okay.
If I'm looking for a mid-management level or a leadership level resume, then we will take that additional effort to go, look at their LinkedIn page, look at some of the recommendations they have received, look at some of the content they have put out there. It's more a decision maker, a deal maker or a deal breaker, if you will. So in this thing, my preference is the second one, which is that of Swati Agarwal. I liked that better. It was more appealing than the first one, which I thought was, it kind of was too much in the face. Whereas this is very subdued, and it really talks about the kind of the person Swati is also, which is very nice to me.
No, absolutely true. I think, and LinkedIn is the future today. Many a times, so again, all the parameters we discussed about being precise, simple, they all apply to LinkedIn. But LinkedIn, you can do a lot more showcasing. You are posting something, your connections, your recommendations. Who are the common connects? Many a times through the common connects, I can do a discrete rest check. Many a times you keep post. Where are you commenting? Whom are you commenting on? So a lot comes out of your personality indirectly through LinkedIn. And if one really wants to dive in, a LinkedIn profile talks a lot directly and indirectly. So you need to manage whatever you're doing on LinkedIn and socially in a very conscious manner. Your Twitter handle, your Instagram. There are actually organizations who actually do your digital audits on what the guy is on social media, and if there is anything that comes across which is conflicting comment, you may end up not getting selected. So managing your social brand across this your digital platforms, very, very important.
Got it. And Rajesh, if I can get you in on that last point that Nagesh made. I mean, he mentioned digital platforms, right? So, do you typically look only at LinkedIn, or do you actually go beyond and look at Twitter or Insta or any of the other platforms?
There are organizations that do that, Venkat, but LinkedIn is the top. LinkedIn is the top.
See,
But
and
I know there
especially
are like, for example, I worked in a company which was doing a lot of work for the US defense, right? So we, in fact, literally borrowed all these IDs and we would scan them before we fine selected them. So it depends on the organizational culture. It depends on how much careful they want to be before they choose a candidate. So there are various layers to it, but LinkedIn certainly is one of the go-to mediums for a soft background check, if you will.
Sorry, Rajesh, you're starting to say something?
just wanted to add, see, in some of the organizations, like Emma mentioned, uh, my social media activity or personality becomes very, very critical. So, leadership hiring, we would be very keen. So, in my previous organization with ABG, leadership hiring, it was very, very critical that we would have done a lot more scanning of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Instagram was not that much, and LinkedIn and any other social media platform, whatever we could, and we'll do a decent due diligence before making an offer. So everything will happen, but before the offer is released, all that certainly be done.
Got it. But
LinkedIn
from your
obviously is the
perspective,
first choice, most common.
right? Got it. But you're saying that for a serious candidate, I mean, I'm sure everybody wants to kind of get shortlisted and move to that final phase. I mean, having a good LinkedIn profile therefore becomes a prerequisite if you are to be taken seriously.
Yes,
Yeah.
and depends that what the person you are. Swati Agarwal obviously is way more appealing uh, in this shortlisting, but I wouldn't. The only thing is that on the left side that there are two photographs, and I'm really not saying if you remove that, I wouldn't even mind picking up the other one as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah,
That banner is what is
even is
jarring. Yeah.
certainly standing out in this.
Understood. No, to be honest, I think building a good LinkedIn profile is possibly the subject matter of entire webinar in itself, and even that might be less, because there's so much that can be done with LinkedIn. We actually got formally trained by our branding agency, when we started building our own leadership profiles. It's so important, right? It's amazing how many people kind of go and take a look at it. Some of them tell you, some of them don't tell you. But in this age of easy accessibility of information, I view it as an opportunity, where there is a platform that allows you to kind of present yourself. Why would you not take that opportunity? And it's a great opportunity to distinguish yourself, right, and tell about who you are as an individual, right? So, but for those of you who are kind of struggling to kind of figure out how to do, LinkedIn Learning has got a ton of videos on how to build a good LinkedIn profile. So I'd strongly recommend that you take a look at those, right? Yeah, sorry, Nagesh.
No, that's an interesting one. I think LinkedIn themselves, they do it, and anybody who is starting afresh and all, I think should be going through those videos. They're very interesting videos.
Yeah. So one more question from Ninad, right? So the question here is about how to present self-employment. If you've had your own venture, possibly it's a failed venture, maybe you've worked in your family business. Are these things that you would highlight or not highlight in your CV? Should you include or not?
I would say highlight. And I'll give an example. I'm not just saying for the sake of saying. We recently hired a person at a leadership capacity who actually, took off time to, do something entrepreneurially, and things didn't work well for him. Unfortunately, it was right at the onset of the pandemic. And what the leaders who were interviewing him picked out is there is a lot of entrepreneurial quality in him which will be of a huge gain to the organization. So put it out. To be an entrepreneur is a very, very courageous thing to do. And so put it out there, call it out there, and you've tried and you've succeeded or not succeeded, whatever, that can come out in the discussion. You don't need to call it out in the resume, but put out that you have had an entrepreneurial stint.
Rajesh, anything to add on that question?
No, I would certainly recommend. Please do highlight and mention whatever. See, it is not about first of all factual information. This is where I was engaged during a particular period of time, and this is what I was doing, rather than omitting it. If there is a gap of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, whatever it may be, the recruiter will certainly some point in time want to know that what you have been doing. Sometimes, as Hema mentioned, this actually goes in most of the time. It goes in the favor of the person that he has tried out something, and personally, I'll be a little more biased toward a person who might have tried something and
Yeah,
it didn't work out, and I
absolutely.
would rather bet on a person more than someone who has tried to hide it, frankly.
Correct. Yeah.
I generally see there's a lot of precaution in not telling out these gaps. And actually, India is completely opened out now. We are absolutely open if you have sabbaticals there, if you've taken time off for child care, elderly care, or something that's happened at a personal situation level, taken time off to possibly do a volunteering. All
Right.
that is encouraged, and it actually amplifies your personality. It amplifies the kind of person you are, the individual you are, and there's a lot of respect that you gain by putting it out there and calling it out that this is the reason why we've had the gap.
In fact, I know a very good friend of mine. He's again taken a break, and he's not very old, and early 40s or late 30s types. Uh, One fine morning, he decided that I am going to go for a world tour. He resigned, packed bag, moved down, and on his CV, he has clearly mentioned that I have kind of wanted to see the world. I earned enough to sustain myself for that period. And these are the countries I went, and this is what I learned, X, Y, Z, whatever, in one short paragraph. And he has done it again after marrying and one child as well. He said, okay, fine, I have earned enough. I'm going out. He has resigned from his current role. He said that Lord ke aunga dekhunga, fir we'll figure it out.
Got it. Yeah. So again, basically the key message coming out is that don't be defensive about these things. Just put it
Yeah.
out transparently, right? And for all you know, it may be counted as a strength. It may be counted as a differentiator. Yeah. I'm very conscious of the time. With your permission, I'll probably extend it by 3-4 minutes. I do want to put all of you on the spot on a rapid fire, but before I do that, I want to take this last question from Soumya. How can your CV represent you for a job which you do not have the work experience or formal education for, but which is your inner passion and your liking? So basically, if you want to do a complete career shift, you necessarily don't have the experience or the qualifications, but you feel something is your passion and you want to apply for the job. How would you go about positioning your CV for that?
Maybe
If
let
I
the
can,
CV be. Yeah. Sorry, Emma, continue.
sorry, if I can, draw from personal experience, my son is 22 years old, and these days with millennial generation, they have too many interests. The world is out there for them to experiment and experience. So he's an electronics grad, and one fine day he came back and told us that that's not what he's cut out to do. He's more a creative guy, and he wants to do a lot more content writing. And he's extremely good at using his words, and he's very aesthetic when it comes to design. So he got interned as a creative content writer. 9 months down the line, he talked to us and he said that, Ma, I think I have far more brilliance than what I'm exhibiting here, and I really want something that goes with technology. And he took a break, and we let him figure it out as to what he wants. And today, he's at the fence where he's trying to apply for tech jobs, which allows for a lot more creative designing and all of that to take place. The point I'm trying to make is all of us individuals, we keep evolving over a period of time. And what we start off, which we don't even know whether that's our passion. There are very few rare individuals who are born with a certain very strong passion, and they carry it throughout their lives. For the largest mass of us, we figure it out along the way. Something happens through our life, and we figure out that this is not where we are, and this is what we are. And it's okay. It's okay to be authentic. It's okay to call it out that these are the job shifts you've had. I have colleagues on my team who started out as mechanical engineers and worked in companies, and then suddenly decided that that's not where their heart lies, and they went and pursued other things and came back and joined my team. So these are all okay. It just adds on to your entire persona. That's what I want to leave you all behind. That feel proud of it, that you've evolved, and feel proud that you want to showcase that evolution to your, possible candidates, for possible companies.
So I think Hima is also very important, right? For people to decide what do they want. Do they want a job or a career, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you will have these thoughts if you're kind of worried about a job. If you want to make your
Yeah.
career, it's best for you to be transparent about your passion and just state it out there. Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
But we are completely run out of time. I can see one more question from Pradeep. We'll have to probably kind of take this offline because already at 7:30. I don't want to extend this too long. So a quick rapid fire. So if there is one soft skill, and I start with you, Hema, on what you're looking for, right, which will grab your attention, resumes of the future. So think, say, teamwork, technology skills, whatever, right? If there is one word that you think a soft skill that is going to be super important for aspiring finance professionals to get into good quality careers, what would that one word be?
Whether finance or non-finance, emotional intelligence is very high on my radar. How
Okay,
emotional it
Nagesh,
really is.
Agility and adaptability.
okay, Rajesh,
Humility.
okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. So you got a nice mix of keywords to play with now. Thank you, panelists, so much. Hema, Nagesh, Rajesh, has been I think this has got to be the closest we have come to a fireside chat, because the flow was so easy between all of you. I think you all felt comfortable in kind of chipping in with your thoughts, and I feel in retrospect that probably 1.5 hours was not adequate time to do justice to all the experience that you wanted to share, right? I think I was feeling guilty, after every question I was trying to kind of move the conversation along, but all of you had so much to offer. So thank you so much for that. The key takeaways for me from this session is, on an average, a recruiter spends only 11 seconds per CV, and your job is not to land the job when you're sending in the resume. It is to make sure that you get that call for the interview. So design your CV in a manner that gets you to the next step, which is a call from the recruiter. Keep the design clean, keep it elegant, keep it simple. Don't overcrowd it, don't oversell it. But when you're designing it, don't go overboard. You've got to get the right balance between the correct content and the correct design. The CV is your personal brand. It reflects your personal brand. So think of it as a wedding gift. The packaging that you got on top of it, no matter how good the gift is, if the packaging is not nice, it's not going to be appreciated, right? So you feel like opening the gift that has got the best wrapping. So make sure that you get your packaging right. Some of the key issues that came up, or key matters that came up in the CVs, is the dates, the chronological order. Make sure there are no unexplained gaps. That's a definite no-no. It's a put-off for a recruiter. It's totally okay. In fact, it's desirable for you to articulate who you are as a person even before you start to articulate who you are as a finance professional. We saw how the CV is more a trailer. The trailer has got to be interesting for the recruiter to start seeing the movie. Understand the psychology of the recruiter. Right? He has got limited time. He's also an overworked human being like you and me. So you got to make his or her job easy, right? So highlight the keywords. This becomes particularly important as you move into automated systems that pick CVs. If there are keywords you want to highlight, make sure Hema made that point about having it at multiple places in your CV. The CVs of the future, understand that LinkedIn Recruiter is a tool that several recruiting firms and recruiters at companies use. So your LinkedIn profile has got to be absolutely updated. Think of it as an opportunity for you to showcase who you are as a professional and an individual. Another key takeaway for me was about how you can highlight the results, right? And Nagesh, I think, brought that point out quite nicely, where he looked at one of the sample CVs that Valentino had put up, awards and allocates, right? What is the impact that you delivered? Once you are able to talk about the impact, then what you have done in order to deliver that impact is automatically assumed, right? So is that what you want to carry away from today's session as something that you want to modify or model your CV on? Rajesh made a very good point about keeping it simple. Don't use complex words. Don't make it hard for the recruiter to understand what you really stand for. And above all, I think what came up as a recurring theme throughout is be transparent. right? There's no need for you to be defensive about a break you're taking in your career. Maybe it's a failed venture. Whatever the reasons are, maybe you're taking a sabbatical, because you wanted to go around the world. Just be sure that you actually list it down in your CV so that it is transparent to the recruiter. Yeah, any closing comments from the panelists? It's been an absolute pleasure. I think I learned a lot. I only wish that this webinar happened 25 years back when I started my career. I'm sure I would have done a little better than what I'm doing right now.
Venkat, come on, you're being too
No, but one thing I've got to tell you, I'm very envious of the people on sessions like this, right? Because they got access to, there's a lot of wisdom, right? It's probably about 100 working years of wisdom that has got condensed into 90 minutes, right? So truly grateful to all three of you for having spared their time and insights. Yeah, but any closing comments, Hema?
So
No,
that's what
I
call
thoroughly
humility.
enjoyed it. Yeah. And as you rightly said, I was just reflecting how good is my CV, though I prepared it some 15 years back. I haven't really gone back and seen it since then. This was a learning moment. And thanks for bringing all of us together, Venkat. And it was wonderful
It's my
having
pleasure.
this conversation.
Perfect. Nagesh, any closing thoughts?
No, just thanks a lot. Great session. I mean, discussing this also makes you think a lot, sitting back, and a lot of insights for me too. So thanks a lot for this session, Venkat. Thank you.
Rajesh, any closing thoughts?
First of all, what you demonstrated is actually a demonstration of humility. So I must acknowledge that on behalf of everybody that was. But like everybody, when I was talking, actually, lots of things started getting clear in my own mind. To be honest, okay. So this is phenomenal session, learning experience for me, and good to know some of you. Nice interacting with you. Thanks a lot for inviting me to share some of my thoughts.
Thank you all for making it. Aditi, you want to come in? You want to announce the winners?
Yes. So I'll just announce the winners. So the 4 lucky winners for whom we'll be curating the CV, they are Sandhya Sharma and Aman Isani. They are the lucky draw winners. For participation and good questions asked, we have Mitesh and Pradeep. So we'll be in touch with you all, and we'll get your CVs polished up and curated so that you all can, have your best foot forward when you apply for the next job. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
proof of the
panelists.
pudding is in the job. Okay, so the 4 of you whom we are going to curate, if you land a job in the next 3 months, don't forget to take us all out for a dinner.
Definitely.
And there are 2 people, Pradeep, Gajendra. If you can drop in your mobile numbers, because I know we couldn't pick up your questions because of paucity of time, but happy to kind of give you a call and have a quick 5-10 minutes chat. Yeah, so please feel free to leave your mobile numbers.